addressing the climate crisis. The tragic thing is you could just play back my answers from the questions in 2019, the last election, though you'd have to turn up the volume, so I'd be shouting a little bit. I won't shout now because I think that 50-degree temperatures this summer, raging forest fires, the hottest month ever around the world, speak louder than I ever could. The maddening truth is, despite lots of good rhetoric coming from all the standard political parties, from the government, we are moving backwards. In 2020, we spent nearly $18 billion supporting the oil and gas industry. Meanwhile, the government of Canada has pledged only $15 billion over 10 years on climate change initiatives. It is, and I say we spent that money because the government not just spent every penny of my tax dollars, but spent every penny of yours and all of your future tax dollars in the form of a massive deficit that you're going to be paying back. Now, I don't object to spending money and going into debt to pay for social programs and healthcare, but it is, I'm mad as hell that the government is, at the stupidity, the cruelty of leveraging your financial future so that big oil and gas can wreck your future. You should be furious. But let me tell you something though, because you can get as mad as you want, but no one is going to listen and no one is going to do anything different. The politicians are keep doing the same thing unless you do the only thing that politicians listen to. Just fucking vote.
So I would say the top priority is the climate emergency. This is an existential crisis, and what we have seen is the very devastating and terrifying effects of it right here in Kamloops-Thompson-Cariboo, not just this summer, but for 3 of the last 5 summers, and we've seen the impacts globally: droughts, fires, and extreme weather events. Now, Canada has failed to meet any of its targets under the Conservatives and Liberals. And in fact, under Justin Trudeau, over the last 6 years, we have increased emissions in Canada. We have the highest emissions in the G7. So we need to take urgent action, and this is a crucial decade. And so I and the New Democratic Party are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030 in order to then meet the 2050 target for zero emissions. We have no choice. We know that we must address this, and there are tremendous opportunities, therefore, in the economy. This impacts our health. This impacts Indigenous peoples, our air, land, and water. And so for too long, there's been a great deal of talk, and we know that the Conservatives' targets are the lowest amongst the major political parties. They and the Liberals continue or are committed to subsidizing big oil, and Aaron Toole says he wants to build more pipelines. But the IPCC and the International Energy Agency have said we're on a red alert and we have to take action now, and no more expansion of oil sands. We can do this. It's not due to a lack of scientific knowledge. It's due to a lack of political wills and big lobbyists behind the Conservatives and Liberals. And we know Conservatives this year at their convention voted that climate change is not real. We have the impacts here, and I'm committed to being a fighter for climate change.
Okay, in this election that's coming up, the top priority, and there's many issues to be worried about, but they're all, every issue is affected by climate change. Every issue. So when you talk about climate change, if we look at the big picture, we look at the blanket we put over the world, it's affecting everybody. So how does it affect Canada? How does it affect this riding? Immigration. There's people now that have no place to live, no food, no water. They're leaving. We can't turn them around. We can't say, hey, don't come here. We have to help these people. So how do we deal with that? This is an issue affected by climate change, as an example. Closer to home, let's look at the forest fires. The forest fires are as a result of climate change. And how are we going to deal with them? 1/3 of the emissions in Canada in the last 4 or 5 years is because of climate change and forest fires, uncontrolled forest fires. We can deal with them, and how are we going to do with that?
Thank you for the question. I believe about all things, our most important priority right now needs to be finishing the fight against COVID-19. That requires everyone working together to follow public health measures, wear masks, to get vaccinated. Doing that will help to ensure that we have a strong economy by allowing businesses to reopen. It will help to keep vulnerable members of our community safe. And it's extremely important that when given the opportunity, people get vaccinated. That will help to support our healthcare workers, it will help to strengthen our economy, and it will help to ensure that our communities are safe.
My top priority is being the best representative possible for the people of Kamloops-Thompson-Cariboo. Now, in my view, and especially as it relates to university students, that takes two forms. One would be in the form of jobs, and two, in the form of mental health. When it comes to jobs, we have what we call the Canada Job Search Plan. And the Canada Job Search Plan pledges 25% to 50% of a new hire salary for their first 6 months. So this will incentivize employers to hire young people, hire people who've been out of the workforce, and subsidize their employment to create more new jobs. Another thing that's really relevant and critical for people at TRU is the apprenticeship grant that we offer. We plan on doubling that tax credit that goes along with that apprenticeship grant. That's really important because TRU specializes so much in teaching of the trades. The third aspect that I want to emphasize is our commitment to mental health. We want to put millions, if not billions of dollars into mental health, because this is an area that's been traditionally underappreciated by government. That for us includes more funding to the provinces in this area, particularly for Indigenous peoples, but also creating a 3-digit suicide prevention hotline so people can get the help they need as soon as they need it.